For the first time in the history of Nigeria, real estate has overtaken the oil and gas sector and has become Nigeria's third largest economic sector. How did we get here? This is not only for investors but for policymakers and everyday Nigerians. So we are going to be discussing how this news is going to be shaping the housing sector and the infrastructural sector of Nigeria. Now let's dive in. First and foremost, let's understand the rebasing that has happened. In June 2014, the Nigeria's Bureau of Statistics (NBS) carried out a major GDP rebasing exercise, the first of its kind since 2014. This base year was updated from 2010 to 2019 to reflect the economic changes, the activities, the consumption pattern, and technology based on the data available. So why is this important? Because GDP rebasing allows the government and the analysts to better understand the current structure of the economy and also to know which sector is doing what, how they are growing, to understand the sector that is not growing, and for policymakers to be able to make the necessary policy that can further help our economy. Now, how has real estate overtaken the oil and gas sector in Nigeria? One of the most surprising and exciting findings from this rebasing is the fact that real estate has now become the third largest contributory factor to the Nigeria's GDP, coming behind agriculture and trade. And that's right, for the first time this is happening. Real estate has overtaken the big oil and gas, as we all know it in our country, which used to be the backbone of Nigeria's economy. Now the backbone is shifting. So let's look at what the numbers are saying. The real estate GDP contribution has now ranked third, and is because of the inclusion of the undocumented activities that has been happening in the industry. The NBS highlighted that informal real estate activities, which include self-built housing, informal land rentals, land transactions, and construction services, were all previously underreported. All right. And of course, now with better data coverage and more comprehensive methodology, the real estate sector has now come to the forefront and the true picture has now been revealed by NBS. So while the oil and gas sector is shrinking relatively due to the global energy transition, going into grain, volatile oil prices, declining production levels in the Niger Delta and in other regions as well. Now let's talk about why this matters, not just for statisticians, but for investors, for developers, for home buyers, and for policy shapers. Investor confidence will be boosted again. The recognition of real estate as a top-tier contribution to the Nigeria's GDP validates its role as a stable sector, a growth-driven sector, and will of course increase institutional investors in this sector as well as foreign and private equity contributors. Policy prioritization is also one of it. Now the economic importance has statistically proven that real estate may receive more attention when it comes to national development, including affordable housing schemes, urban renewal projects, land reform policies, and not only that, infrastructure and job creation is also part of what this new information is going to be bringing to Nigeria. Jobs will now be created more from architects to engineers to bricklayers to agents to interior decors to plumbers and people that service the real estate ecosystem. Not just that, increased formalization and rebasing reveal the size of the informal housing and property market in Nigeria, and this will help in regulatory of tax and formalizing some of these activities, which of course will lead to more transparency in the ecosystem. So what is next? Where do we go from here? Here are some trends and projections that we are keeping our eye on, and we want to enlighten you on them. First is urban migration within the Nigeria's population. It has been established that by 2030 there will be an increased urbanization, and which will lead to increase in infrastructure, skyrocketing house demand. Of course, not only that, smart cities and proptechs will increase because there will be need for digitalization when it comes to property documentation and management. And of course, this will also lead to increased affordable housing because now the government will see that there is need to focus on affordable housing and make real estate ownership much more easier. Sustainability and green buildings, of course, will also increase because now the world is going green. It's important that our buildings, our constructions are eco-friendly and are sustainable for the ecosystem and for the future. Finally, I'd like to tell you that this rebasing of Nigeria's GDP not just statistically gives us an update, but it's also a paradigm shift to the fact that homes, buildings, land, and things we often take for granted are not just physical assets, but they are key economic drivers for our nation. As oil fades from the spotlight, real estate sector has an opportunity and a responsibility to drive inclusive growth, urban innovation, and nationwide prosperity. That is all we have for you on Property Access today. Visit us on our page for more insightful updates and news. And don't forget to share, don't forget to like, don't forget to follow us. And remember, real estate is not just about property, it's about power, purpose, and possibility. I'll see you next time.